How did you make your first million?
But that was the mantra of the place. Like, you got to build a team. You got to make passive income in real estate. So after reading that, I'm like, this is my golden ticket. This is how I get there. Finances will never be an issue for our family again. A high achiever, it's not about living balance.
Colt,
Yes, sir.
how did you make your first million?
If we're going to be 100% candid, it was $988,000. And it was in the real estate sales industry. Been in real estate for, 8 years at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And in the company I worked with, the owner wrote a book about how to become a millionaire in real estate. And so I'm sure some of your audience would have heard about it. But that was the mantra of the place. Like, you got to build a team. You got to make passive income in real estate. So after reading that, I'm like, this is my golden ticket. This is how I get there. And so for me, it was a journey of building that team and going through all the growth a leader needs to go through to get to goal. But eventually in 2018, was that year we hit it. 101 homes sold and 988,000.
Wow. And how many team members did you have?
On average, about 4. The team had grown up to about 10 at one point. I was trying all kinds of different things, hiring inside sales agents to convert online leads. But the salespeople on the team that were working with the clientele, typically around 4. And majority of the work, the 80-20 rule, we had 2 top producers that did 80% of the results. And my goal was to never sell real estate personally. I just wanted to hire and train the agents because I'd known for a long time that my skill set was always in coaching.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
How old were you?
36.
2018, so like 5 years ago?
37.
36 or 26?
36 or 37.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a dream as a boy that you want to make your first million at a certain age?
Yeah, absolutely.
And what was it? What was the age?
It was 30, and it was a young age I decided it. It was 7 years old in the car with my mom. My parents had split up when I was 2 years old. And it was the first time I had notably seen her stressed. And so she's picking me up from school. We're in her rusted 2-door Tercel. And she's picked me up, and there's something different about her that day. And so JC, I'm like, what's going on, Mom? Like, what's the problem here? And she said, it's fine, honey. Nothing. It's okay. It's just finances. And because I'd never seen her in that much pain before, I was like, this is serious. You know it as a young boy when there's something off with your parents. And it was just in my heart. It's like, finances will never be an issue for our family again. And it's like at 7 years old, I made that vow. And I'm like, I'm going to become a millionaire someday, Mom, and you never need to worry. And she started laughing. Like, she thought it was hilarious. Like her 7-year-old saying, you're going to take care of me. But I had made this decision internally, and I'm like, yeah, someday I'm going to be a millionaire and all of our problems are going to go away, right? So
that's amazing. That's a good goal. That's a good reason to make good money. That's a good why.
Started noble. I think it shifted. As I got older.
It shifted to what?
Well,
I started caring about more materialistic stuff, or
yeah, absolutely.
Why not?
By the time I'm in my teenage years, my mom had met my stepfather, and they married, and so the financial burden wasn't there anymore. But I had made that vow as a young boy, and so it became about winning the approval of others. I didn't know that at the time, but all of my goals of wanting, guys are only interested in a few things, right? It's like, have great adventures. I want to have cool toys, and I want to get the attention of women. And so as a young man, I'm like, if I can just make $1 million, then someday I'll have the adventures, I'll have the cool toys, and I'll have the choice of female. Because ultimately, I was just really insecure. And I thought I needed this thing on the outside to make me feel better on the inside. So you don't know that at the time, but...
Were you married in 2018 when you made your first million?
No.
When did you get married?
2020.
So see, the $1 million helped.
Well, I haven't told you the second half of the story yet.
Okay, tell me the second half.
So I had been driving for that goal for $1 million for most of my life. And when I got there, it's so interesting because building a team didn't take all my time or resources. I maybe worked 20, 25 hours a week on it because I knew that on the inside I was supposed to be something else. But the money was so good in real estate that I just couldn't let it go. I had studied it so long. I was so invested in it, but the work was drudgery. I loved the clients. Don't get me wrong. Like, I loved the people we worked with. I loved the team members, but whether it was like building systems or presentations or anything, like I just wanted nothing to do with it. So that internal stress kept growing and growing. And after we had hit the goal of 100 homes, 101 homes that year, one of my team members came to me. This was my biggest fear, that one of the top 2 guys, we had a table with 2 legs on it. And I was like, I know this thing's a little rickety. And if one of these guys ever quits, I'm screwed. Everything's going to fall apart. I'd spent a few years developing them, and they're selling 40 homes a year each. One of them came to me at the end of the year and he said, I think I'm ready to go on my own. Man, this was the thing I had dreaded for so long because I knew that I didn't love the business. I didn't want to be there, and I knew that I didn't have it in me to go replace him. It had been a few years leading up to that point where every time I had gone on vacation, just to even visit my parents, I was like, I couldn't get off the couch. And it was really strange. Like I was exhausted. Like I just couldn't move. Like I'd stay in bed till like 10 o'clock in the morning. And it was only when I was at my folks' house or on like a really slow paced vacation, I'm like, I'm an adventurer. Like what's wrong with me? You know, my parents were so concerned. They started praying over me. They're casting demons out. They're like, what's wrong with our son? You know, we want him back. And it was a precursor to a burnout. I didn't know at the time, but I was living in this tension because every morning I'd wake up, open up my email and say, who needs me today? Like, what do I got to respond to? And that was the adrenal fire that I needed to get going. So when my agent on the team came to me and he said, I'm thinking I'm ready to go off my own, all of my fears came to fruition in that moment. But then the biggest surprise happened. So it's interesting how duality in life, right? Your highest low moments and your lowest moments can sometimes happen at the same time.
That's right.
You ever experienced that?
Yeah.
And so he says, I want to go off on my own. And in my mind, all of a sudden, joy starts to come over me.
Holy shit.
I'm like, what's going on here? And as he's speaking, I'm holding back a smile. And it's so strange because this is my biggest fear. I'm holding back a smile. And it's like, all I can hear is these thoughts inside of me go, yeah, me too. Because I had never really wanted to be in real estate. I had always seen myself as a speaker, as a coach, as someone that wanted to help others succeed in their businesses. And I was doing this thing because I thought I had to. I thought I needed the credibility, the platform. Hey, look at me. I had this team, sold 100 homes. Like anybody cares. The clients I work with, they even care less about my history. They just want to know, are you the guy to unpack the genius out of our minds cold? That's the only question, right? So long story short, I feel this joy come over me. And I'm like, yeah, me too. And as I start taking steps towards unraveling this team, because I'm not going to keep building it, I go to our other top guy and say, hey, how can we help you transition? Something really strange started happening. I started feeling like I felt on all those vacations. And it's like my energy started dropping and the workouts weren't working and the caffeine wasn't working and the cold plunges that weren't working. And as January hit, I couldn't get off the couch. Like it was so bad, I couldn't go for a walk. Everything that I ate, I wasn't a guy that had like heart palpitations. A lot of guys will feel that. I have friends that are a little older that joined the Zipper Club. Are you familiar with this?
No.
The Zipper Club's when you have open heart surgery. So it's so common in the business world that I got a lot of guys in their 60s that I know that I coach and work with. They're all part of the Zipper Club. So it's not a club you want to be part of. Okay,
no.
But heart palpitations was my thing. I internalized all my stress in my gut. So I couldn't eat. Food sensitivities went through the roof. These were all precursors. And I share this because maybe your audience.
You got an ulcer or something?
It didn't turn into an ulcer, but I was like, I couldn't digest the food and absorb the nutrients.
Oh, shit.
So the time of repair working with a naturopath, it's been a few years since that time, but 3 months I couldn't get off the couch. And I worked very little during that time. And it was a season of real reflection. You know, it's like being locked in a prison cell. You know, you can't do the things that bring you life. I can't go hiking. I can't go mountain biking. You can't hang out with people I love. And it's like, if you would have told me about burnout, I'd take a weekend off. You know, what's the problem? But in that state, I didn't know if I'd ever recover. You're in this place and you're like, am I ever going to feel the same way again?
Was there anything else causing this feeling? Like, was there like a heartbreak or was it just work?
That's a good question. I did go through a breakup a couple months before that would have compounded to this. Absolutely. 38 years old, watching all your friends have families. They're on their second and third kid. I'm like, what's wrong with me? Like, I'm not like a terrible looking person. I'm not a terrible person. You know, why can't I seem to attract anyone? There's just no room. There's no room in my life for that.
Because you were a player or something? Were you a player at all?
There was a season.
Real estate agent, you make money, you have blue eyes. You fit the category, my friend.
When I was younger in high school, I would have like my whole being was about attracting female attention. Part of my journey was going through a faith experience. And so, you know, when I started going to church, kind of built a relationship with Jesus, I kind of moved away from all of that stuff. And that had a hook in me. That is another story, but that wasn't a light switch I could turn off. That took a lot of fasting, prayer, and healing to get to a place where I wasn't trying to take something from women. I was trying to offer something to them. So there was a journey in that, but that wasn't that was 10 years prior to the burnout.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So, okay, continue. So, January, you can get off the bed again. And now
3 months in recovery. And you ask yourself, like, if I ever feel better again, what am I really going to do with my life? Right? What do I really want to do? What's the thing that's been inside of me that I've known for a long time? I've even dabbled in, but really haven't put my energy towards. For me, it's always been coaching. I've gone through exercises where you find your purpose. I don't know if you've done some of these. One of the questions was, what could you do for hours on end and just never get exhausted and never feel like work? And one of the questions was just sitting across the table from a business owner who was just in the thick of it. You know, a small business owner, they're in the chaos. They're trying to build team. They're trying to find revenue. It's just, there's something in me that just illuminates when I'm sitting across from that person and I'm asking them questions to help them get clarity on their calling and their purpose. And so I said, if I ever feel better again, that's what I'm going to do. That's going to be the play. I'm going to meet with business owners and just help them get clear on their purpose so that they don't live in the same kind of internal prison that I'd been in for so long, doing things for the wrong reason.
Wow, that's very nice. So you started doing this in 2019, if my math is right.
I had been dabbling in it since 2013, but yes, went more full time towards it. Right after I started feeling better, it was, end of March, I started calling clients, setting up discovery meetings and stuff. And the doors were all closing, which was strange because anytime I stepped towards coaching, doors would fly open. And so, being a man of prayer now, I just said, like, God, what's going on? Why are the doors all closing? And I just had this sense come over me, like, I want you to come away. You've just been driving so hard for so long. Why don't you come away on a little father-son adventure? That's what I felt come over me. I started looking at places on a map and said, I've never really taken more than a week trip anywhere. What if I went away for a little while? I felt like Antigua, Guatemala was highlighted on a map.
I've heard of this place changing people's lives and careers so many times. Yes.
I just felt like it was highlighted. I didn't know a soul there. So I picture I'm going to go down to this remote place. I'm going to bring my mountain bike and I'm just going to reset. I'm going to start writing a book down there and just, I don't know how long I'm going, maybe 3 weeks, not sure. I get down there and I learned a few things about Central America. One, it's not a remote place where you're in some recluse cabin in Central America. You make friends everywhere you go in this country. It was beautiful. It was beautiful for the soul.
How long did you stay?
Yeah, well, that was the second thing. Number two is I thought I was going for 3 weeks and I was there 3 months.
Wow.
3 months. And it came to me, I was like, what do I have to go back for? Like I knew at some point I was going back, but I said, I'm never going to get this season back in my life. What am I rushing? I've been rushing my whole life. I always wanted to move out west when I was younger, live in the mountains for a bit. Never did any of that because the second I graduated high school, that vow as a young man, gotta make $1 million, it just burned in me. And so everything I did, it was like business. And I never really got the state of health that I wanted, never really got great relationships that I was looking for until I started measuring something different in terms of wealth.
Interesting. So do you regret working really hard on making your first million? I kind of feel some kind of,
Regret's a funny word because a lot of people, if you ask them if they have regrets, they say, I don't regret anything. Yet when you break down, like, would you do that again? So, of course, we wish we knew the lessons that we went through the pain and hardship to learn. I wish I knew them at a younger age.
But what were you trying to say? Like, if you graduate high school, don't work really hard to make money, just stay healthy?
No, that's a great question because there's nothing wrong with hard work. Hard work it's biblical. To work hard is good. The issue wasn't the hard work, it's striving. And the difference for me was learning that I didn't know how to stop working. I had an inability to shut off. And for me, again, as a man of faith, the Sabbath, God didn't take a day off because he needed it. Okay, let's just get that clear. When he was making the world, he took Sunday off, took a day of rest.
He got it done.
He didn't, but he took the day off, not because he needed it, because it was a model for us, right? It's to look back on the 6 days and say, you know what, it is good. It is good. But I didn't know how to stop. I didn't know how to reflect back, and I didn't know how to find joy in anything I'd accomplished. Because if it was incomplete, if I didn't have the million, I couldn't be happy.
So find the balance or find the right why.
There's a cadence to our work. And working and stopping, it's like going to the gym. You work out, right? So are you building muscle when you're lifting weights?
Yes.
Or are you building muscle when you're resting?
Yes.
So when you're working out, you're lifting weights, you're tearing all the muscle fibers. Microscopic tears in all of them. And it's when we rest that they all rebuild and get stronger and larger.
Recovery.
Yeah. So in the work I do now, I work with business owners. Most of them, JC, they're crushing it. I mean, they're making more money than they ever thought they would. That's not the issue for them. They know how to make money. They don't know how to shut off, and it's costing them their health, their marriages, their relationships, their children. They're seeing years evaporate, and they don't know how to get them back. And so my goal is to make sure they're not living with regret, right? How do we make subtle shifts where you can continue working just as effectively, just as hard, but also enjoy the things that you're actually working for, right? I'm doing this for my family. Great. Where are they in your calendar, right? When was the last time you had a date night with your wife, right? When was the last time you just, for some of the single guys like myself at 38 years old, single, I wanted to be I wanted a great, female to build a life with. And so to not have that after so many years, it's just not realizing, hey, no room for it, man. Just driving so hard.
How did you start creating a room? Just asking for a friend.
Just asking for a friend. I like that. Man, I'll say it wasn't easy. Through the burnout, I had to. There was no question because I couldn't handle the same degree of stress anymore. It was so bad in those 3 months where if I picked up a book and started reading and it started getting a little bit intellectually heavy, I had this fuse that would just zap me. It felt like I'd get into this mental state where I had a window into depression. Not a depressed guy, never dealt with it. Any cognitive stress would just overload me. And I say that as transparently as possible because I'm hoping, if you have any listeners that going through something like that, these are precursors to a massive burnout, right? When you're getting overwhelmed easier. And so with that in my life, I had to rebuild my ability to handle stress again, to be it physical stress on my body, mental stress, emotional stress. All these things would zap me because my adrenals stopped firing, adrenal fatigue, they call it. And so it was built over time and understanding. But I remember going to my pastor and saying, I don't know how to rest. I know how to go full speed, fall flat on my face. But you tell me to just have an even pace, and I have no idea what you're saying. My body does not comprehend. And so I've learned now this process of unspooling once a week. My red flags are if I'm in this state where I'm crushing tasks and then all of a sudden I need to take a break or I need to go do something else. And I'm I just got to do one more. I got to do one more. And I want to get back to it at 10 o'clock at night, right? I just got to do one more email. That's a very dangerous place for me. I know I'm going back into that wasteland of thinking I'm productive and just spinning my wheels. And so this is the craziest thing when I work with people who are high producers and I help them not live a balanced life. That's like telling a Ferrari to drive the speed limit, or a racehorse. Let's just trot around town for a little while. No. A high achiever, it's not about living balance. It's about not living in the red. It's about learning how to shift, right? Clutch, disengaged. Let's get out of that mindset into the next pattern so you can cruise at a faster speed without living mentally in that cluttered chaos. So what I'm trying to say is when I show them how to just back off the throttle a little bit, plan the shift pattern, the craziest thing happens.
Like what?
They usually make more money. They were at the top of their career, they're crushing it in their industry, but yet they're living in the red. And so the reasons they back off a little bit is maybe for health or for family or for something that's more important, maybe for something that's truer inside of them they haven't been able to explore. But as we just dial back a little bit, their salary increases half the time. It's the craziest paradigm. I had to ask you, why do you think that is?
Maybe because they took a step back, they were able to realize and to spend some time thinking what was going on. Oh, I could have done this one better. Oh, I could hire someone to do this better than me. Just, for me, when I step back from things and just there's chaos, those days, they always happen. You show up to work, 10, 15, 20 fucking mistakes happens in the same time. Everyone is in chaos. You see what's going on. I always run away. When a day like this happens, send them home, go home, and I start, what's going on? Because in the middle of this chaos, you will do mistakes trying to fix them. So you will cause more chaos, and the things that you will cause, it won't be easy to recover it. So I always take a step back, and it helps me to look at things from far. Because when someone's going through a problem, it's easy for you to give them an advice. But when you're going through a problem, it's hard for you to give yourself an advice because you're in the middle of it. You have to be that someone who's looking from far to see what's going on, what's actually going on. Why the basketball team, they have a coach who's looking and watching the game and giving them plans. And that's one of the reasons why I'm looking for a coach, because I want someone to watch my game. And then, so that's what I think.
You know what? I think it's a brilliant answer. And there's a lot of wisdom in the way you're approaching it. A time of reflection, right? To set a different trajectory is what you're talking about.
Yes.
And that's the issue. A lot of these folks, when they're living in the red line, they don't have the opportunity to.
No.
Have you ever driven a sport bike or a exotic car or anything like that?
Exotic cars, yes.
So I had this day, what was it? We rented 8 supercars and just little mastermind. Every 20 minutes we'd switch cars, switch drivers, and just meet with different business owners. A lot of fun. But with some of these cars, and even on some motorcycles I've had, when you get going, I wasn't doing it in the rental cars, but just for the sake of the owner listening, maybe. Yeah. When you get going 200 kilometers an hour or more, what happens to your field of view?
It gets tight.
Immediately narrow, especially if it's new to you. If you're not used to going that speed, I'm sure if you're an F1 driver, you're taking in more than maybe you or I would take in an F1 car, right? Your field of view narrows, so you don't get to see the full picture. And so when you're running your life, the idea is that when you're in that red line, your field of view narrows. And just like you said, you got to just back off. When things aren't going well, am I on the right track? Am I going in the right direction? Why is this happening? If I were to relive this day, what would I do differently? And so that's a really healthy practice that you have.
You talk very highly about yourself as a coach. What makes you a great coach?
Do I talk that highly? I try not to have ego.
Sounds like it. It's not ego. This is confidence. This is not ego. No.
It's an obsession.
We have to understand that when someone talks highly about themselves, this is not fucking ego. This is not confidence.
I don't mind if you talk about me. I prefer not to go around.
Oh, why not? You get to brag about it. You've done your research. You worked so hard. You helped so many people. If you don't brag about it, how am I going to hire you, or they will hire you? It's like you can't be a quiet coach and then expect people to hire you. It doesn't work like this.
Well, that's why you're helping me with social media. So I appreciate that. I'm not into self-promotion, but I am into education. It's obsessive for me. I love helping people get through their sticking point. Like when I see someone that's got incredible potential, like this, like innate God-given potential that's beyond their peers, and they're very specific in the application. There's nothing that excites me more of helping them get unstuck. It's like, imagine working alongside of someone like Michael Jordan, right? You think this guy, nobody floats like Michael, right? He's not the tallest basketball player in the league. He doesn't have the largest arm reach, anything like that. But there's something that he changed the game. Right? So imagine being a coach that works alongside the next Michael Jordan in their industry, in their career. If I can help unlock that potential, get them out of their thinking, right? To help set them free and change the world again. That to me is one of the most exciting things. And so
what makes you so good at it? Like, is it your patience, you're a good listener, or there's like something like
I'm sure I can come up with some things that make me sound really fancy, but at the end of the day, you're going to excel at what you enjoy. And for me, it's always been a place of play. It has never felt like work to me. So getting to sit alongside of someone, and I consider it a great honor to work with someone that's achieving at the level I can't do what they do. I'm going to be honest. Like, these guys they're another level, and I admire it. But I like to get in the weeds with them and just ask them the questions that they might not have time to ask themselves. So oftentimes my sessions are the place where they're reflecting for the first time.
Well, I know.
And so
I know. I've done a couple of sessions with this guy so far.
It's it was a real privilege even having our sessions together, because it's a safe place where as a leader, you're often very alone. I know you got some listeners too they might be surrounded by people every single day, but in what they deal with, they're very alone. And to be in a place where I get behind the mask with them and I get to know what's really going on and be a safe space to unpack and help them think through and strategize through that's an honor, and it's humbling. So I don't know if that answered your question.
It did. I have actually a big question for you.
Okay, here we go.
Coach vs. a mentor. Can you explain the difference? Because, when I first started looking into mentoring and coaching to hire someone, I was confused. And I know so many people, they don't really know. They think it's the same. So is there actually a difference? And what is the difference if there is?
This is a bit of a frustration of mine that you're going to unleash if you see a little bit of emotional response to this question.
It's a safe spot for anger here.
It honestly, part of my anxiety was that I didn't know the difference well into my coaching career. And so here's what I've learned and become to know as truth in the coaching realm. Most people that call themselves a coach, myself included for a very long period of time, coaching is not, you don't hire someone to tell you what to do. A coach is not someone that comes up with the plan for you. That's a trainer, right? Or perhaps a mentor. A mentor says, here's what I've done. Walk in my shoes. We all need mentors. We need someone that's been on a similar path to us to help us through, the things we don't know, the strategies that we've never even considered before. The coach's role is where it becomes custom to you. So a great coach is skilled in the artwork of questions. That's their art form. And so it's the questions that do the heavy lifting for me. I'm not here to tell you how to run your business. I mean, God has made you so unique that if we stretched your DNA from here to the moon and back, it would expand 5 times. Like, that's how unique you are.
So mentor is someone who's done it before, exactly what you want to do in your future. And they will tell you, that's what I did, and you can copy me.
Well, this is where there's no exactly.
Okay, and correct.
Time is different, era is different, technology is different, you're different.
A coach will help you to find a solution and will help you to find the right way. So I think you need both.
You do.
Just like you said.
Absolutely.
I know most, like 70% what this guy did, because we always need to look into the history, right?
Yeah.
It's like people got rich out of COVID because they read the history. What was the last thing that happened like COVID?
Yeah.
What happened to the market? When was the recovery? And that's how they invested their money. And I learned this during COVID. I didn't know that before. That history matters.
Yeah. So take the example of a doctor, right? Talking about COVID here. So at some point in a doctor's career, he has to go through training. He's got to learn the skill set he needs to learn to practice medicine. And he goes into a specific discipline. And then he might work with some mentors to help him engage in that discipline and understand. But at some point, for him, to get to the place that's truest inside of them, to maybe solve the COVID equation, right? The true healing pill for COVID. Maybe that's their ambition. There's no path for that. And so that's where a coach comes in. Now, at different points of your career for different reasons, a coach can help you with productivity, help you with mindset, help you overcome things, but you're so unique. Our role as coaches is to come alongside you, help you get clear on where you want to go, and help get anything that's not in that path out of the way.
Nice. When did you learn that you could be a great coach? Like, you started your real estate team, you started hiring people. You wouldn't have started building a team if you didn't know that you can actually do it.
Oh, man,
Were you like in school the leader of always like some 10 other dudes?
These are painful memories because
everything is painful. That's wrong.
Well, in reflection, because you're like,
yeah, that's right.
If I was a better student, I would have had a shorter growth curve, shorter ramp up. So I had hired a coach when I was building my real estate team. And there was a point where he just stopped our calls and he said, Colt, I don't think you want these goals. And I'm like, his name was Joe. Joe, what are you talking about, man? I pay you a ton of money to help me get there. Like, are you crazy? He's like, yeah, I coach a lot of people and you don't want these goals. And then I was kind of dumbfounded. Like, he caught me so off guard. I didn't know how to react. And he said, why don't we have a conversation about what you do want? And he said, what do you want? And I started reassessing everything we had talked about. And he said, let me ask you this. What's your favorite part of the industry? And I said, this is going to sound really strange, but it's the other agents. He said, what is it about them? I said, I love going to conferences. I love meeting with people who, again, are in the thick of it. They have that entrepreneurial spirit. They're trying to build something that's never been built before. And so whether it's an agent or a homeowner I meet with that is in business, I'll talk to them for an hour about their business and they're saying, hey, when can we get to the home sale? that should have been an indicator I should leave the industry earlier, right? Because I was so obsessed with learning about business and helping business owners grow. Both my father and stepfather were both small business owners. So, watching them and their growth and just wanting to help make the path a little bit easier for others. And so he said, why don't we do an experiment? Why don't you sit down with 5 realtors in your office? This is where I got my start, was in the real estate industry. And he said, I want you to just talk to them about their plans. And I said, but Joe, I know the coaching companies in real estate and I'm not interested in that. He said, I didn't say anything about them. He said, I told you to go sit down with these agents in your office and just listen to their goals. So I met with a few agents. I picked out a few and sat down with them. And I said, this is great. Let's meet again next week. By the second or third meeting, they were saying to me, JC, they're like, how much to do this every week? This is amazing. This is exciting. And all I was doing was asking questions. And the best part was, it was the most life-giving hour of the week was when I spent with them. And so in 2013, I started coaching, and everybody I coached in that season doubled their business in one way or another. In the end of that year, I was thrilled because they were making either twice as much money, doing twice as many transactions, something along those lines. And the funny thing is, they didn't care. It wasn't what they were celebrating. They were celebrating who they had become in the process. They were so thrilled about the confidence they walked in, the authority they had in speaking with clients. They had changed who they were on the inside, and on the outside, circumstances prevailed for them. And so that was where I got my entry in and the indicator that I probably should have gone full time in it immediately. But I got afraid. I said, well, maybe I can't make as much money there. Maybe I'm not going to be credible. All these voices started to come into my head. And so I said, you know what I'll do? I have the journal entry that I can reflect back on. I'm going to coach people on my own team. My coach, my mentor, all these people tried to warn me against it. So I don't understand why you're doing this, Colt. It's like, I've been so invested in this company, in this industry. I got to make $1 million, got to be credible. And Joe tried to warn me. He said, my best clients, they never ask me what my past experience is. So they just want to know, am I the guy to unpack the genius in their mind? So you know who asked me that? The people who can't afford me, Colt. Those are the ones who asked me what my past experience is. So I reflected back on that during that burnout. You can imagine. I thought a lot about Joe's voice in my head. So
interesting. Are you guys still friends?
I do reach out to him from time to time. There's something very special about the coach who's helped you discover your path in life. So I've introduced other friends to him, and they're like, "Oh yeah, great guy." But we had that special thing that was that he helped me set me free, and so that's my goal: just help set the captive free.
Nice.